Welcome to the Well Off Podcast, where the goal is to motivate, inspire, and share success principles. I'm your host, George Masri. Lorraine Jordan got into real estate when she was 18 years old, and by the time she was 24, she had flipped 2 properties, did a rent-to-own, assigned a deal for $10,000 in profit, severed land, and she owned 9 doors, including a commercial multi-unit building. She's currently an agent with Keller Williams Co-Elevation Realty in Midland, Ontario, and an active real estate investor. And on this episode, we talked about her journey as a real estate investor, who should be buying a property outright, giving a case example, house hacking in today's market, buying 56 properties in 9 months, how much time she spends on personal development, and the difference between average people and achievers. I know you guys are going to enjoy it. I think we had a great conversation. And if you do enjoy the podcast, please leave us a review on the Apple Podcast platform. 5-star would be appreciated. And then make sure to subscribe and like our video on YouTube. And then if you want to connect with me, again, we're looking to get into some larger multi-unit properties. We're going to be purchasing over 10 units this year or targeting these types of properties. So if you want to get involved in that sort of thing, make sure to reach out to me on Instagram, WellOffX, or on welloff.ca, and then contact me through there. There you go. Enjoy the episode. All right. I'm here with Lorraine Jordan. Lorraine's one of my colleagues at Keller Williams. And you drove down from Midland, was it? Yeah, cool. Well, it's great to have you here. I think this is probably the first time we sit down and talk. I think I've seen you at events a couple times and just said hello and whatever. So, yeah, thanks for joining me. I'll just start off like I always do. Tell me about your childhood, where you grew up, a couple things you remember.
Oh, childhood. Grew up in the Midland Penetang area, so actually in Penetang, up in beautiful Georgian Bay. Got into real estate when I was 18, so kind of one of those things that, I don't know, I love people, I love helping people, I love solving problems and building wealth.
Okay. Do you remember anything in particular about growing up in Midland? Anything that stands out to you?
Oh, there's so many things. I think just kind of the area. The area is beautiful. Heading to the beaches and, having picnics and hanging out with friends. I mean, I always used to laugh whenever my mom would say, oh, it's too hot to cook today, so we're going to go for a picnic when your dad gets home from work. And then she would continue to boil potatoes and macaroni to make salads. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, you're still cooking.
Yeah.
But when he showed up, we were out the door and grabbing towels and heading to the beach.
Yeah, cool. That sounds fun. I like those little stories that I hear from time to time. Okay, so 18 years old, you got started, like a real estate career or?
A real estate career. I was the youngest real estate agent in that area to join the board until recently when I hired somebody that age.
Yeah.
And investing wise, I bought my first flip property that year.
Yeah.
I think I was in real estate about 6 weeks, and I saw a really good deal, and I didn't have enough money to buy it. Funny enough, it was a vacant lot. And so I went to one of the agents in the office that I had got to know and said, hey, this is a smoking deal. I think I could sell it for twice what it's listed for. So it was like, I don't know, it was $30,000 and we sold it for $60,000 or something like that. And so she bought it with me. But the day after it closed, I sold it for double. We split the profits and did my first JV.
Wow.
Probably about 6 months later, I did a rent to own. I didn't even know what it was. It just made sense. Somebody had some money. Somebody needed to sell. I put them together and did a rent to own. And this is going back many years ago.
Wow, that's so cool. So how did you have the confidence to do your flip like that, just getting into the business, having the confidence to know, okay, this is what it's worth. I'm sure I can sell it for this price, and taking on that risk?
I think it's just, if I look back, I'm strategy, right? I believe I see things that not everybody sees. And, there's a logical part of my brain. I mean, I have creativity, but there's also this logical part that just goes, well, wait a minute, these are selling for this price. This property just got listed for less. Mm-hmm. I know I can make this happen.
But a lot of people have that logic, right? And they see it, but not a lot of people have the courage to actually act on it.
I guess I'm maybe a little brave.
Yeah. Cool.
Even at 18.
Yeah, for sure. I started selling real estate when I was 23. And I was just like this kind of arrogant guy who thought I was going to have the best year ever. I was going to beat everybody in the office, and life just kind of smacked me in the face and said, no, that's not going to happen. And then just a little taste of humble pie. But anyways.
Nothing wrong with humble pie.
Yeah. So Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what you recently experienced. You said you were speaking at an event, and a lady who was 70, you said 70 years old?
Yeah, she was in her 70s.
Yeah, and she just said to you, it's too late for me to get started. For anyone listening that feels like it's too late to get started, what was your advice to that?
Well, it's kind of an interesting group. It was high net worth people, a lot of different people with experience in different things. And, everybody was going, oh, I could do this, or I had this happen. And they were sharing different stories and, a little skeptical because of the market and the conditions right now. And then out of nowhere, this lady said, well, I'm in my 70s and it's too late for me now. And I said, well, it's funny you would say that, because I said I've had a couple people where, they lost money in the stock market. And she was like shaking her head, right? And, your investments are, a little depleted. And I said, I had a few people actually go, you know what, enough of this. I can see a house, I can feel a house, I can touch it. Like, it's not going anywhere. Even if the prices go down, it's still there. So they purchased something outright. So I said, if you took your money, and I don't know how much money you have saved, but if you took your money and you put it in and you bought something outright, which, makes me cringe a little bit, because I always think, leverage, that's the beauty of investing in real estate. But if you bought it outright, which is what they did, they knew that they were making $10,273 a month rent, right? So that was the income that money was producing. That made sense to them. There's that logic piece, right? So somebody piped up right away and said, I said, so there's no risk, because there's no leverage. So there's no risk. And somebody piped up and they said, wait a minute. What if one of the tenants doesn't pay? There's a risk there. And I said, if you buy a building that the investors don't want, right? So you're paying cash for something that we call it an underperforming asset, right? So the rents are low. So let's say you buy a 10-plex or an 8-plex or whatever it is, and everyone's paying $700 a month, and today's rent is $1,700. Those people are going to pay rent, because they don't want to get kicked out.
Oh yeah.
Right? So they're hanging in there. So the chances of you not getting paid rent one day is maybe because somebody passed away or somebody moved out and family's just figuring stuff out. But now you're going to have an empty unit that you're going to get $1,000 more for. So now you're making $11,000 a month, and that's just going to increase over time.
Exactly.
So, if you're looking for a strategy to pay for a retirement home living that you're worried about, like, that's a pretty cool one.
Yeah, so you get yourself a 10-plex or something, or actually this one would have been probably a little bit bigger, right? Mm-hmm. And then if you were to go, like a regular investor, you were to go maybe make an offer on this, well, you're not getting financing probably, because unless you have a huge down payment. But someone in that situation, if you're paying outright for it, then no problems.
Well, and one of the things that we've seen over the past few years is I've had people go, oh yeah, my building's worth this much money because, I got like 12 offers on it. Well, we've also all seen in the last few years where those 12 offers, sure, they accept something that's high, but then you see it on, social platform the next day where they're trying to wholesale it.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't have the buying power. Like, out of 12 offers, there might be 2 people there that could actually buy it. Mm-hmm. Well, you show up with a cash offer conditional on a home inspection for 2 days or 3 days, like, there's some buying power there. Mm-hmm.
Did it take a lot of convincing to get this lady to actually buy the property, or was she just motivated and you felt like, oh, no problem?
I've had a couple people do this, and it was actually last night that this lady came up with it, so I haven't sold her anything yet.
Oh, okay.
Yet.
Yeah. But you've had
I've had
people
it happen.
Kind of ask you about this strategy. I think it makes a lot of sense, because let's say you're putting in, I don't know, like 1.5 million, you're getting 10 grand a month. So what is that, about 120 grand a year? 120 grand on 1.5 million. It's a pretty decent return just for cash flow.
Yeah.
It's probably better than what you're getting in the stock market in terms of, like, if you have a mutual fund or something.
But the risk, right? The risk is so low on it.
Yeah.
But it's funny because we don't think that way. We're always thinking leverage, like 5% down if you're a first time buyer. Can you get away with that? Or, owner occupied, or 20%. And we're always looking for that leverage. I mean, like, I cringed the first time I did this because I wanted them to buy 2 properties, right? Just,
of course,
leverage is still amazing, right? 50% loan to value would be incredible. Yeah. But I had people do it, and it's what they felt comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
Cool. So let's talk a little bit about another opportunity you mentioned. So you were talking about a place in Richmond Hill that you were looking at. So it was a beautiful neighborhood. There was a sixplex on the market. Nobody really wanted this property. Can you tell us a bit about that situation?
So one of the things that absolutely drives me insane right now is, everybody's story around, oh my gosh, there's not, what are my kids going to buy? Affordability for first-time home buyers is crazy. Like, what do we do? And I'm like, buy a sixplex. We do have a lender that will finance a sixplex as a residential, so that's pretty easy. And I remember this one property. It was in Richmond Hill. It was a beautiful neighborhood, like one off in the middle of this neighborhood. It was a sixplex. It was like 2.5, 2.6, something like that. And I showed it to investors going like, this thing is gorgeous. But it was underperforming. The rents were $750, $800 a month. And I thought, wow, as a first-time home buyer, they could go in, they could secure the upper floor and take 2 units, renovate them, and then, it's preferred if it's 2 years later, not one, move into another unit and do the same, and then just, turn the building over.
For sure. That's an awesome opportunity. And in case somebody doesn't know, if you're buying a tenanted property and you plan on living there and you're not lying, you're actually going to live there.
Right.
You can remove the existing tenant and move in yourself. So that would be a benefit in that scenario if it's really underperforming, and you can probably take the unit that's getting the least amount of rent or whatever and kind of live there, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great idea, and that's house hacking.
There's so much opportunity for that everywhere right now.
And the lender you're referring to, is that RBC?
Yes.
Yeah, RBC. I think Desjardins will do it as well.
Right.
So those are the two that I'm aware of. But yeah,
Meridian's kind of iffy. Sometimes they've had a lot of change recently. So
yeah, and some lenders will do it if it's in your personal name. They won't do it if it's a corporation. RBC will do it in a corp. So that's a good thing. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your journey, your investment journey. So you're an investor yourself.
Correct.
You've been doing it for a long time, as you mentioned, but you told me before we started recording that you bought 56 properties in 9 months.
Yeah. It was a fun journey. It started with 20 in 20 days, which was kind of crazy because what happened was we studied a market. And I have a really great mentor and client and friend and partner. A lot of people know Mandy, the JV queen.
Yeah, Mandy Branham. She's been on the podcast a couple times.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Love Mandy. So I started working with Mandy years ago, and then I said, I really appreciate you buying all these properties in this area, and I love working with you, but I want you to diversify your portfolio. And so what do you mean? I said, well, I think you should buy in different areas. So she bought some properties in Kingston, St. Catharines, Hamilton, up in the mountain, and they were a good deal. And we had researched this other area, and we had researched actually up in Sudbury. And so we went back and forth, and she said, well, I'll go to Sudbury if you want to come to Sudbury. And I said, I'd love to come to Sudbury. So we did the homework. We went up there. We bought 20 properties in 20 days. Actually, it was September 2020. And never looked back. There was definitely some stress involved there. We had a lot of offers in, and then we were finding our JV partners and helped a lot of people build some wealth, like, single mom, 2 kids or 3 kids, buy up there. And we had one young couple. They owned no investment properties. Now they have 12 doors in like 9 months. They're like, we met you and now we have 12 doors. Like, this is crazy, right? So just making an impact on other people, which was really, really fun to do. Mm-hmm. Not without some little bumps here and there, but stuff that we learn. And I'm really big on, I don't like having or suggesting somebody does something that I'm not willing to do. So for instance, when Mandy was first buying a lot of properties and putting basement apartments in, there were lots of people doing it, and there was so many people fighting over all the bungalows in the area. So I had a 2-story home. So I did an up and down in that, and then I did a front and back, and I tried different things. And then when I learned, it's like, ooh, I got to watch the hydro in this one. I never thought of this, or, there were certain things I learned, then I could pass that on to somebody else.
Yeah. Well, it sounds really cool when you say you did 20 properties in 20 days, but I'm sure there was a lot of kind of preparation that went into that, or did you just go in and put the offers and then figure the rest out?
No, there was a lot of research. The average income up there is like $84,000 a year, which is huge for, for the price range. There's 3 schools. There's a lot of employment, the hospital, it's the healthcare hub. Like, there was a lot of investment time put into it before we went up there and started doing our shopping. But the goal was we did so much prep that it was like we went crazy right off the bat, because I also know what it's like to come from, it's a city, but it's still kind of small town. Everybody knows everybody. So it didn't take long before everyone was like, what the heck's going on? And then prices started going up. Mm-hmm. Right? So the 250 duplex was now like closer to 3, and they kind of saw us coming and tried to gouge us for more money. You got to do it fast.
So in terms of preparing capital for that kind of thing, is that something you guys had like a bunch of partners lined up to do these 20 deals in 20 days, or did you secure the deals and then find the capital?
A little bit of both. We both were confident that we had some people that would be interested. Mandy has an incredible track record. I've been in real estate for many, many years, so definitely people that would follow me as well. So kind of the combination of the two of us. And that worked out super cool.
As a realtor, have you found success in doing deals with your clients, as in joint venture deals with some of your clients, or do you tend to separate your clients from your joint venture partners?
I separate, for the most part. Like Mandy's my number one client. She's purchased, I think she's somewhere around 170 properties over the years. And she's gone away on, at Christmas time on holiday, and I've put in an offer on a property to buy it. And when she gets back, I show it to her and she's like, well, what are you thinking? I said, it was a good deal, so I bought it. And she said, well, do you want it? I said, well, if you want it, it's yours. Like, you're my priority. So I'm really big on not mixing that. It was different to do it with Mandy and you know what I mean, have that set up for the clients. So it's like they're investing that way. I've done a 9-plex. Mandy and I own a 9-plex, and then we did a 10-plex burr, which was fun, like right down to pretty much the studs, and rebuilt it. I think we bought the 10-plex for 7 and change, and I think we have 1.2 and it appraised for 2.3. So that was a pretty cool deal. Now we're looking at larger properties, and I have a couple different partners. So now it's I'm looking at building a 72 unit, just looking at large multis. Many, many years ago, I asked somebody, he was a very, very wealthy investor. And I said to him, what's your advice? I own a couple investment properties. My original goal was to buy 10 investment properties, and in 20 years, because I would pay them down quicker, in 20 years, I would, cash flow $2,000 a month from each one profit, and maybe they never went up in value, whatever, but I would make $40,000 a month. After I paid tax, I had $20,000 a month to live off of, and that was my original dream. And then, I don't know, dreams kind of can get bigger when you start doing, cool things. So when I look back at all the different properties and, doing it with different clients and stuff, it's like I'll create opportunities. I've sold people just duplexes on their own that they're willing to. I've connected people to Mandy. I've connected people to other investors that were a match. And yeah, it's just a matter of being upfront and helping people and meeting them where they're at.
Mm-hmm. I have a bunch of questions. Let me just ask you the first one, which is, how did you meet Mandy in the first place?
So for all you real estate agents out there, and especially your Keller Williams ones that go to Bold, I kind of made a comment about the script at Bold. And, that the one that we use, that I'm in a contest, and, you call your friends and you ask them who they know that you could help in real estate. And my coach challenged me to use the script word for word, and said, you can't change it, you can't make it anything different, you have to use it word for word because it works. And I said, okay. And said, you need to book 2 appointments. So I started making phone calls, and I called the first person, and of course I called friends of mine, right? So they're like, hey, Lorraine. And I go, hey, may I speak to Amanda, please? And they're like, hi, it's Amanda speaking. I said, hey, Amanda, it's Lorraine calling from Team Jordan. I don't want to take a lot of your time, but I'm in a contest and I need to know, right? And who do you know that's thinking of buying, selling, that kind of thing. And, I said it kind of silly. They knew it was silly, whatever. So the second call was a friend of mine, and she said, oh, you need to meet my friend Mandy. And I thought, oh, I remember her talking about Mandy. Mandy said she wanted to own half of Midland, and I'm sure I rolled my eyes going, oh, here, right? But I needed to book appointments, and I did, and the rest is history.
Wow.
Mandy and I hit it off, and I loved Mandy's. There was a lot of investors, but what I loved about Mandy was she was really big on, like, if there was a senior upstairs and she renovated the basement, she'd put a senior in the basement. Like, she's always about community and people. And you know what? I mean, I like to make money, but not at the expense of anyone. It's always people first, right?
Absolutely. That's fascinating how you end up meeting somebody you've done so much business with who's probably a good friend of yours.
Absolutely.
Just from following a script and being introduced from a friend. It's cool how life works. Yeah. So you mentioned a bunch of things when a couple minutes ago. You were talking about the 10-plex that you bought for $700 and change, you said. Can you tell us a bit about that one? I know you broke down the numbers briefly, but where was that property?
In Sudbury.
In Sudbury. It was a 10-unit building in Sudbury.
It was awful. Like, they were shoveling like needles out of it. It was really rough when we bought it. So we, worked through getting tenants out and, reallocating them to other properties that we owned and, just being respectful. They're all people. And then, we brought in a crew and did some renovations and had a great partner there. Guy, that was wonderful. And, renovated it all and got the appraisal on it. And
So you mentioned the figure 1.2 million. Was that what you ended up spent? You spent, like, let's say $500,000 to renovate. Is that right?
Yeah, we'd be probably closer to 6 on that, all in. Yeah.
And then you got appraised at 2.3. So you're able to basically draw out all the cash. Was that a privately funded deal, or is that something?
We did a privately funded, and we just went through that CMHC wonderful process. We're just at the tail end of that. That's And that's a reason why I would buy a larger building. So like that guy, I guess I missed that. The guy told me his advice was, if you bought a $500,000 duplex and in 25 years from now, like the prices were the same, you did nothing, whatever, you took the 25 years, he goes, it would be a $500,000 paid off asset. If you bought a $5 million building today and nothing changed and you just paid it off in 25 years, you'd have a $5 million asset. What would you prefer?
Of course, yeah.
And I'm like, the $5 million, but like, where do you start, right?
Yeah.
Well, you start like proximity is power. Who do you know that's doing that? Like Sandy McKay and Dylan Suter are very good friends and partners and different things, and they're brilliant when it comes to that.
Yeah, I never actually thought about it that way, but that's a good point, because your mortgages are set up for usually 25 to 30 year amortizations, and with CMHC you can go up to 40 years. So yeah, if you're paying off the asset in that time period, so like you said, whether it's 500,000 or 5 million, it's getting paid off. So it's a good point to look at it that way. It's just when you're talking about a $5 million asset, you've got to think more. You've got to have different connections. You've got to have different goals. You've got to have the courage to go after that. You've got to raise more capital. So I think that's what holds a lot of people back.
I think it's different relationships. Like even the people funding them, it's like, okay, that's nice. You've raised 20% or 30% even, but who are you to buy this? Right? CMHC wants to see that you're not going to be a slumlord, that you're going to take care of it. Like, they're getting really particular on that. I find anyway that they're looking for people that are vetted and, can actually afford it. If the roof needs to be done, or, a sewer line gets backed up. That could be a couple $100,000 in a multifamily building. Yeah. So, are you that savvy investor, and are you almost like that accredited piece, right? Are you accredited? Can you do this? Can you pull it off?
Yeah, I guess there are a lot of landlords that don't take great care of their properties, and I'm starting to notice it more because all the people I know take great care of their properties because they're all like professional investors for the most part. So yeah, it's interesting to see. You do have to protect both sides, so it makes sense. You mentioned a 72-unit building. So can you tell us a bit about that?
I have a client right now that we've been working hard up in Midland. It's been probably 3 years we've been working on it. And yeah, we're looking to build a 72-unit apartment building. So I'm excited to be part of that.
So you're building it from scratch? Okay.
So we're playing with the financing because it's all about the exit strategy.
Yeah.
Right?
You've done so many like pretty incredible things. What what's allowed you to do this? Like 56 properties in 9 months. That's a lot. Not a lot of people would take on that kind of, like, you're probably 1 in a million, I would think, that would do something like that. What makes you feel like you can do this? What has shifted in your mindset? How were you able to accomplish such a big feat?
Probably goes back to a few, like I said, my goal was 20 houses. That was my original plan. I went to the big investment seminar in Toronto, and I saw all these people from my Tony Robbins world, my John Maxwell, my Philip McKernan, Archangel. So all these personal growth places, right? I've also done mission trips, and I saw a couple people there that I've been on mission trips with. And I'm thinking, what are you guys doing here? Like, I didn't know you were an investor, and you start having these conversations. And these are all incredible people that want to give back, right? They want to make a difference. They want to make an impact in the world. And they're all there because they wanted to learn how to, buy investment properties that would cash flow to replace their income so that they could pursue their passion projects. And I was just so moved by that. And I thought, wow, so like two of the things that I'm really, really passionate about is doing real estate better. I just feel that bar could be elevated. When an agent says, hey, this is a really great property, you should buy this, they should be willing to buy it. Like, put your money where your mouth is. So doing real estate better is number one. The second one for me is creating income for life so that you have the freedom to live your best life. So to me, it's like, I don't know. I just look at it like it's almost like throwing that pebble in the water and that ripple effect. If I can help people replace their income, if that's $3,000 a month, $4,000, $10,000, $20,000, whatever it is, so that they take that leap of faith to maybe, do something that they wouldn't have done, make an impact, become a life coach, go volunteer, build a school somewhere, then I just think that's really, really cool.
Yeah. And kind of what I'm hearing you say, well, I think there's this kind of idea sometimes that people will only do joint ventures because it benefits them. Like you as the active partner, you're doing it because you're raising capital and it's beneficial for you. But like you said, a lot of times it's very beneficial. It's actually more beneficial for the person that's providing the capital or the passive partner, because they're getting to kind of ride the wave and take advantage of all the things that you're doing there to grow the portfolio and to get that cash flow and all that. So I'm sure it's a motivating factor, like you mentioned, to be able to help others through joint ventures.
Well, and I mean, in all fairness, kind of one of the things that happened that year was, I have a large team. We do like 400 transactions a year. I usually do 100 transactions. So in 2020 was my year that I was going to focus on growth and that whole we do real estate better. I wanted to go get more real estate agents and bring them into my world and teach them what I knew. Right? I had a great career, and now it was time to pass it on. And COVID hit, I lost a few people on my team, and there was just things happening. And at the time, my VP of sales kept saying, like, we need you to go sell again. And I'm like, but I wasn't supposed to, right? Like, help me run this. Like, what's another solution we can come up with? And she kept pushing, and you know what? She said, well, just do 50. It's like, it's June. You just do 50. Okay. Yeah. So I thought, I don't know, I don't do really well with people being the boss of me. So I thought, I'll do it my way. I'll buy 50 investment properties, right? So that's kind of where that came from. So I set it up. I worked it out. I was helping Mandy, build more wealth. We were helping other people build more wealth. I was learning more, growing more, so I could share that opportunity. Mm-hmm. And it was just a win-win for everybody. So the other thing was, like, I still sold over 100 properties personally that year. And the interesting thing is I took Sundays and Mondays because I thought, well, I can give up one weekend day and I could give up potentially one day a week. And you know what? I never thought I could take 2 days off. Like I work a lot of hours. I love what I do. But I was able to do that. Mm-hmm. And until just recently, I was up there every single Monday. Now we have like an incredible, property management person, manager in charge, and the handyman, and we have a team, and all our assets are nicely stabilized. And so now it might be like once a month that I go up, and some phone calls in between. Mandy's amazing at being part of that world because she's run a property management company for years. And then there's parts that I give to her, there's parts she does more of, and that's what a partnership is.
Yeah. I'm sure some of the people listening to this feel like, oh, this must be so easy. Like you're selling 100 plus properties a year, and you purchase over 50 properties in a year. Oh, so easy. But even I'm thinking that, like, you make it sound like it's. How did you do that? That's the thing. How does it come so easily to you, or does it?
So, first of all, I think I'm the luckiest person I know. So there's like, it shows up because I believe that, I guess. But January 2021, so there was actually a third partner with us, and unfortunately, roles, whatever, it didn't work out. And we had 9 closings that weren't going to close. He had supplied deposit money. He was walking away from the he wanted his deposit money. He was walking away. And, honestly, probably the hardest month of my life. Just stressing over, Manny's like, well, I don't know. I guess we just can't close. I said, we can't not close on 9 properties. That's called fraud. And the partner was leaving. We had to come up with $100,000. I refinanced my house. We had to close on a $300,000 duplex cash. It's funny because Mandy sent me the email when that was all breaking down yesterday and said, man, we've come a long way from that month. And honestly, it takes a lot for me not to sleep at night because I feel I always make decisions that are right for people. And I was not sleeping. Like, I just felt like I was going to throw up for probably a week. Until it's like you just go into action. And, when you go, it's funny because people always say that, like, what you said is something I've heard so many times. You make it look so easy. It sounds so easy. And like I said, I feel blessed. I feel fortunate. I feel, grateful, whatever. But Tony Robbins recently, he was talking about how, when you get squeezed like that, or you're really under pressure and you come through it, it's like every time you come through adversity, you grow and you become stronger. And I guess maybe there's a lot more adversity there than what I've realized that have made me stronger over the years. And, I just go like, what's the solution? Yeah. I don't care what the problem is. What's the solution? And I go into strategy, like, okay, I can go refinance this because I don't owe this, and pulled out some money and just made it happen.
I think I feel the same way when I get into those situations where it's like high stress. The only thing that calms me down is action, because I feel like if I don't do anything, I'm gonna go crazy. So
well, yeah, and people will say, oh, you didn't celebrate, like, oh, this just happened, like you barely celebrated. I said, right, I didn't celebrate it. I went, woohoo, that's great, and moved on. But I do the same if something bad happens. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, someone just backed into my car. Oh shit. Oh well.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, makes sense.
So same thing. But I mean, I look back and, I've known a lot of people, and I'd have to say that nobody did this without struggle. Mm-hmm. I remember somebody going through a lot of trouble, and, I remembered just basically calling them like a big baby and like, oh my God, like, oh, we're going to have a little pity party. Are you going to cry today? Like, and really pushing them because I needed them to believe that there was a solution and that they needed to step into their power and go find it. Mm-hmm. That's what I could offer them.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned a couple times Tony Robbins and like some of these other, I guess, people that you follow. How much time do you spend on personal growth, personal development? A
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually a Tony Robbins Plat member. And I have a few friends that are down there that are Plats, and now I'm meeting even more friends. So I'm at a Tony Robbins event now, like, I don't know, probably 8 times a year. Plus there's online programs. Huge fan. If anyone wants to go, please reach out, because we have tickets. We still have a few tickets left set aside for UPW, that Unleash the Power Within, the one where you walk on fire. Such an amazing event, live in November. So we just have some that we put aside for friends and colleagues and teammates and stuff. So if anybody wants a good deal on those, reach out, because I think we have them for maybe like the rest of a week or something. I don't know.
Is that happening in Toronto?
No, West Palm Beach.
Yeah, that's where it happens every year, right?
Well, and he used to do like 6 or 7 a year before COVID. He does 1 a year now, and I just look at it like, honestly, it could be his last, because he does them online, and he has a massive following online now. Like, he's, gosh, the reach that he has, and yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Okay, cool. I might reach out to you about one of those tickets.
Come.
2 of those tickets. My wife and I will probably come.
Oh, it's so much fun.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So yeah, lots of time aside from Tony Robbins. Do you do anything else for personal development?
Archangel is this week in Toronto. This weekend, I love Archangel. Again, something that I've been going to ever since it started. I haven't missed one.
Archangel?
It's just a bunch of different speakers. Check it out. It's pretty cool. I do have access to some good deals on tickets. So if you're interested in showing up for that, it's always been very inspiring. One of the guys that I saw there was Philip McKernan, and I'll never forget, his comment was, everybody has something to share with the world. So if you found out that you had like 2 months to live, what would be the 15 minutes that you'd want to share with the world? Mm-hmm. And I thought, wow, that's pretty profound, right? Like, I don't know, what can you give back? What impact can you make? And that helped me with that other part where it's like, what if we could unleash everything that people are feeling or thinking or wanting to share onto the world? What would that be like? Yeah. So yeah, Philip McKernan, John Maxwell. I do leadership stuff with John Maxwell. I'm a certified trainer, coach, whatever with them. And then I'm part of Gary Keller's mastermind. So that's that top 1% with the company. Yep. So that's like 4 times a year. I'm usually in the room with them and just the people there again, right? Proximity. It's all, I don't know. The conversations that you have with people at that level are just, it's amazing. It never ceases to kind of blow my mind. We just did an event. There's a coaching company that I'm part of with Sean Provencher. It's called Flip Space. It's really cool. And when we went to Mega Camp, we went out floating on the river, right? And here we are talking about investments and multifamily and all of that kind of stuff while floating down a river, hanging out in the sun, just having a great time. And the one guy's like, this is just so amazing that here I am. I signed up for coaching. I decided to go on this event, and here I am floating down a river getting this whole coaching conversation, because it was a 4-hour float, on how to do investment properties. Like, well, what an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. You've seen a lot of different people through the different groups that you're in. What do you think separates most average people who are getting average results from the people that are achieving extraordinary things? So
we always laugh. Tony Robbins' world is outstanding, right? So outstanding is people that stand out. So I believe, I used to believe that the world was like 80-20, the 80-20 principle. I think now it's 80-19 and 1%. 1% are willing to do what it takes. So I'm a big believer in choose your hard, right? Do you, people are like, oh, I don't want to go do this. That looks hard. Okay. But, having money so that if somebody's ill in your family and you have the opportunity to go get surgery or, a needle or whatever for that family member to save them or, help them with their health. What's hard? Sitting by and being helpless or, providing that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's true. Like, I guess what you're saying is just doing the hard things. I think it's Zig Ziglar. It says, if you do what's easy, life will be hard. If you do what's hard, life will be easy. So
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no secret to it. It's just I guess over time.
I think it's action, right? It's action. When I look back at it, I mean, the people that I know, there's a lot of people that talk about what they want to do, and then there's other people that do it, right? So you can stand by and watch it, or you can just go after it and make it happen. I always laugh. Dylan and I met. He was only 6 months in the industry, and he just kept bugging me. We were at family reunion, Keller Williams event. He kept bugging me all week to coach him. I'm like, I don't coach people. And he's like, what do you mean you don't coach people? I said, I don't want to talk to someone and, they ask me what they should do, or we talk about it and I give them a solution. And then the next week it's like, oh, they didn't do it. Not interested in doing that. That's exhausting to me. So he goes, why don't you mentor me? And I said, well, what's the difference? He goes, well, one, you don't charge me. And he kind of chuckled. And he said, just share stuff with me once in a while. And if I do it, then keep sharing. And I said, okay, fair enough. And I mean, he was in his 20s at the time. And I said to him, call me at 7 on Friday. And I never thought he'd follow through on it. So he called me for a few months, and at one point he goes, nobody believes me that you do this with me every week. And he says, why do you do it? And I said, because I get a chance to do a do-over, right? Like, I've made a lot of mistakes, tons of them. I would love nothing more than to help somebody not make the mistakes, like, oh, that's a bad idea, or this is a bad idea, or this is a good idea. So we started doing it. And then the funny thing is, the one day he's like, oh, sorry, I slept in, was out late last night or something. And then the next week something else happened. And then the following week, he called and I didn't pick up. And like he sent me a text or whatever saying, pick up. And I said, sorry, you've been replaced. And I had somebody else in that time slot. And he called me for like 3 months every Friday until she missed the call.
Oh, wow.
And he got his spot back.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And then eventually he just kept growing, and then he kicked my butt. So then I have to step up and, can't beat him, join him. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I find that just from personal experience, if you have a really good coach, they're not really doing it for money. Even though it's good coaches get paid quite a bit, but they're doing it more to give back. And that's a really cool thing about looking out for a coach. But like you said, they want to see you take action because I guess it's fulfilling to see somebody do the things that you tell them to do, and it's devastating when they don't. Well,
and you're busy. Like the reason why a great coach still has to charge you money, because there's a per hour value that they bring, that they earn, that they're bringing for other people in their lives. Like, it's about opportunity. Like Sandy McKay, I always laugh. Sandy McKay was, when I first met him, I remember some comment that he had gotten 3 listing appointments, said, I don't want to do this, and I'm going to build a team. And I remember thinking, like, who are you to build a team? But I mean, he built a great team, and through investment. And he when I look at it, a lot of people joke around that Sandy's all about, who can do it, because he's not doing it. He's always looking for the talent that he can put in the seat to do it. But if you stop and you really pay attention, Sandy is all about creating opportunities for people. Mm-hmm. Like, he's building wealth for people. He's impacting lives. Yeah. And it's just a beautiful thing. Like, I love it.
Yeah. It's all, a lot of it is mindset. Like, I got a haircut yesterday, and the barber just kept like this. I feel like I don't want to go to him anymore, but it's so convenient. He's just coming up with all these reasons about the interest rate hikes and how are people going to afford anything today, and just like all this negativity. And a couple months ago, it was like, before the rates went up and all that, it was like, oh, prices are so high. How can people, it's always the same thing, right? There's always a reason. But if you just change your mindset, you can open so many doors.
Right. I mean, you could look at the big dark cloud, or you can look at the silver lining.
Yeah.
Right? There's always a benefit. Always.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I really enjoyed this conversation. Do you feel like there's any last bits you want to share with anyone? Any words of wisdom, anything like that to anyone listening?
Well, we had a gentleman just purchase a duplex recently, and that same duplex would have been $700,000 back in February, and they got it in the 5s. And the numbers work. Originally bought it. It was going to cost $100 a month. We talked about, do I kick out the tenants? Do I move in? Do I do this? And I said, you know what? The tenants have been there for 5 years. You got a nice solid asset. They're paying. So what if it costs you $100 a month? Like, it's not the end of the world. It's a great property. The windows are good. Whatever. Like, it was a great property. And he hasn't even closed yet, and the tenants upstairs gave notice. Mm-hmm. So now he's going to cash flow $400 a month.
Yeah, it's always nice when it works out like that,
right? And you just talked about that negativity, and it's like, you know what? If you live in fear, you're going to be around fear. If you live in abundance, you're going to attract abundance. Like this guy lives in abundance. He attracts it. We talked about it. Same as it's mindset. It's like, what's the outcome you're looking for? Set the outcome. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, we were talking about door knocking because he's an agent, and he said, I don't know, I just get a feeling like this is a street I should go door knocking because somebody wants to sell here, and I just go meet them. And I said, I've never been door knocking without booking an appointment. So it's like, what's the outcome you're looking for, right? And it's same as, people are like, oh, I want to buy a duplex, or I want to buy an investment property this year, or I want to make X number of dollars selling real estate. It's not about the goal. You hear it's about who you become on the goal, but it's the commitment to being the person that achieves that goal. So if you're an investor, what are you doing to learn about investing? Who are you talking to? Who are you with? Are you partnering with somebody that can teach you more about it so that, you learn from it? And then some people are just busy. So, we actually have an investment fund that we just started, and, we're looking at much larger properties, and now somebody can just put their money in, and now it's split over several properties, and it's just that much easier and less risk.
Yeah. I was thinking about that too. I think another big factor here is thinking big. because I don't know why. It seems like a lot of people, including myself, have a tendency to like limit our goals or what we believe is possible. But then when you unleash your mind, I think you can accomplish so much more, and you start drawing the people in, and the opportunities seem to come more. You just got to let yourself go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. So I was 7 years, I think, doing 179 transactions every year. And but then one day, because I mean, I live in a small area, there's 20,000 people, and then one day, I think it was Christian Cole up in Anchorage, Alaska, and she did 350 deals in an area of that size. And I'm like, well, if she can do it, I can do it. And then I surpassed it because I believed I could. Yeah. Right? Everybody seems to have this ceiling or this cap of what they need to do. And, I think in real estate, because I'm sure you have a lot of real estate agents that are listening to this as well. Like I always tell people, it's like you lead gen till you have your 100 favorite people that you want to talk to on a regular basis. And then once you have those 100 people, you talk to them and you do business with them, you ask for business, and you just network with them. And then you make money. Well, then once you make money, it's like, when are you getting your prec open and when are you putting that money in? Because what happens is, people will make X number of dollars and they start spending it because it's more money than what they had before. So like if they were making $70,000 or $80,000 at the job, now they made 150. First of all, they're telling their family, "Oh, I got to go out tonight because I'm making out. Look, honey, I made 150 grand this year." Well, that 150 is 125. And then they keep going, and the next year it's like, holy cow, they made $250,000. Yeah, well, that after tax, that's only 150 because you're in a different tax bracket if you didn't open your prac. So now, you're paying for taxes because you blew it and you bought a nice new boat or a shiny red car, and you know what I mean? That's that immediate satisfaction. Whereas I always tell people, like, build your wealth statement. What does that look like? Are you, building wealth? And the goal is not to grow so that you're replacing a $250,000 or more income. The goal is to grow so that you're replacing that $80,000 or whatever that you needed in the beginning. So live on the 80, take the 80 out all the time and keep the rest and keep investing it until that makes you the 80. And then whatever you do is completely up to you. It's freedom.
Absolutely.
And it provides you safety.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to live for most people. Hopefully we'll start seeing more and more people doing that as there's more mediums like this where people can get informed and listen to people like you. So thank you so much for sharing all that. Do you want to just share what services or maybe any events you have coming up and the best way to reach you?
Probably the best way to just reach me is email lj@teamjordan.ca. So that's lj@teamjordan.ca, and that's my private personal one. So you're actually going to get through to me. And yeah, set up a time to kind of chat with what your goals are. And I don't know, I have investor partners all over the place, so it depends where you want to buy. I mean, right now I'm up in Midland and Sudbury. So I also invest in Montreal. I have investor partner friends all over the U.S. as well. So I guess it just depends what you're looking to do, and happy to connect.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much again for joining us. And
thanks for
I look
inviting
forward
me.
to speaking with you again soon.
Yes, me too.
Thanks for listening to this episode. Your support is truly appreciated. And if you can share this with a friend or family member that might benefit from the information, remember, our goal is to motivate and inspire others to take action and to build wealth and to become well off. Enjoy the rest of your day.